Hey everyone, it's Charlene. I am here to show you the Simon Says Stamp February 2022 card kit and make some cards. So going through the kit here, there is all kinds of really nice stuff in the kit this month. You saw there was a dot runner as well as some cute little lock and key adornments from Tim Holtz, a couple of envelopes, one in cotton candy and mint, as well as a piece of glitter paper. And then we have these lovely pattern papers, double-sided. These are from the Simple Stories Happy Hearts collection, and there's 12 sheets, so you can see there's lots of fun little cut-aparts that you can cut for cards, as well as solid patterns that you can use. This really nice Miss You die, which I'm going to be using today and I'm excited about. And here is this beautiful Orchid Rose Bouquet 6x8 clear stamp set. And then there's also a Thank You 3x4 clear stamp set. And they coordinate, which is really nice because you can use them and mix and match the sentiments. In all the kits, you're always going to have this nice inspiration sheet, which is always fun to have. And then there's a couple of pieces of cardstock. We have got mint, fog, cotton candy, and surf blue. As an added bonus, there's also a mesh bag in cherry this month. Let's get started. I have been wanting to try heat embossing on vellum for a while now, but I've had trouble getting a hold of the Lawn Fawn vellum, which is really good for heat embossing. So I finally got a hold of some and I'm going to heat emboss on it today. You saw I came in with my anti-static powder tool. Now I'm coming in with some VersaMark embossing ink and I've covered the entire stamp, and I'm just making sure to get really good pressure as I apply my stamp down to the vellum. I did make sure my stamp kind of went off each side of the piece of vellum, and then I'm just really careful when I peel it up since it does have a tendency to stick to vellum. So you can see in the light there, if I kind of turn it, you can see all of that embossing ink on there. Now I'm using some Ranger, I believe it's Superfine Detail in black. And since I use the anti-static powder tool, it actually comes off really well on this vellum. Any stray little bits, I'm just using a dry flathead paintbrush to get off here in just a moment, and you can see. But I love already how this is looking, and you're gonna see once it is heat embossed, it looks so amazing on the vellum. Now, I've started using my little Positively Everything tool that I got from Simon Says Stamp when I'm doing my heat embossing. It makes it really easy because I can just lay my paper or my vellum or whatever it is that I'm heat embossing down on my desk and I can get a better view. I also find it results in less warping of my paper, so that's really nice. This vellum though, I'm just shocked. It doesn't warp at all. It's really amazing with the heat embossing. So once I have that all heat embossed, you can see it's so pretty. I am going to do a fun technique. Now, I haven't tried this technique yet, so bear with me. I hope you try it though. It is so cool. I am going to paint with alcohol inks onto the vellum. So I'm using two colors here. I'm using Fiesta and Gumball. In hindsight, I wish I hadn't picked colors that were so close, or at least separated them out a little farther on my little alcohol ink palette I have here, because I actually ended up mixing up the colors and I couldn't remember when I was trying to add more of the color in. So if you do this technique, separate them farther out or use some colors that have a little bit more of a contrast. But you can see I also put in one of the little pellet wells, I put some blending solution, and then in another one I put some rubbing alcohol. These two things react different with alcohol inks. The blending solution kind of helps the colors to mix together, whereas the rubbing alcohol kind of pushes them apart. I also use the rubbing alcohol to clean my brush. So you can see I've got a paper towel there over on the side, and I've just sort of sprayed some of the rubbing alcohol on the paper towel so I can wipe my brush off. It might be easier if you have like a little dish of the rubbing alcohol to clean your brush. especially if you're working with lots of different colors that you don't want mixing at all. Since these colors were already going to be mixed, I wasn't too worried about getting my brush really clean. But what I'm doing is I'm putting down a lighter color, and then I put down the darker color, and I go back in then with some of the blending solution and kind of blend them together using my brush. Now, if you've done any kind of watercoloring in the past, you know when you're using heat embossing like this, it's nice because it creates a natural spot for you to paint, and it's so much easier to stay within the lines. The thing I like about the alcohol inks though is that they kind of layer upon themselves as they dry and you paint some more. So you get all this variation, and with the vellum, oh, I wish you guys could see this in person. It looks so cool. Okay, so I have now taken that out and I'm going to score along the top and bottom, and I have trimmed this piece a little bit, and I'm going to put it on top of a piece of pattern paper that I've picked out from the card kit, and it's cut to 5x7, and I've cut the vellum just slightly smaller on the sides so that you get kind of a peak of the paper on the right hand side once it's all adhered down. If you guys are enjoying this video, please do hit the like and subscribe button, as well as that notification bell. It helps me to continue bringing you more crafty content in the future. Okay, back to the card. So I found it easier to score one side, then fold it over on the paper, bring it back over so I knew exactly where to score on the other side. And then I'm just putting some double-sided tape on the back of my pattern piece of paper, and I'm going to adhere the vellum panel on there. I really, really like how this looks because you can see through the vellum and see the text underneath, but then you have the text also peeking out on the side. And because the alcohol inks are translucent, you can see through them and see the writing underneath them. You've got all this different texture going on. I just can't get over how cool all of this looks. And I only use 2 colors. If I wanted to, I could have used lots of different colors on all the flowers. I just wanted a very basic look. Plus, since this was the first time I was trying this, I wanted to reduce my chances of messing it up while I was doing a video. But you could use like a different color for each flower, and then you could get so detailed if you wanted to with this. It's just so fun. I recommend trying this out, you guys. It is just another way to get more out of your alcohol inks. So once that's done, I've got my card base here. Again, this is a 5x7 card. It's side folding, and I'm using double-sided tape on the top and bottom. Since I do have the vellum, I just wanted to really make sure it adhered well, and I find that using adhesive tape works a lot better than glue, at least for me, when I'm trying to make sure things adhere well. Now in the center, I am going in with some Gina K Connect glue, and I'm just kind of putting that all the way around on the panel. And so then I'm going to come in, remove the release paper, and I'm going to use my Score Buddy to make sure I can get everything nice and lined up when I slide that top panel on top of the card base. I would love to hear from you guys down in the comments if you have tried this before. I haven't seen any videos or anything like that, or really any pictures with people posting where they have painted with the alcohol inks. So if you've tried it, I would love to hear about your experience and even see a card. I think it just looks so cool. So I did something a little different with my sentiment, and I really like how it looks. I cut out 3 layers with the shadow die, 2 in black and 1 in white. And then I took the white layer and I used the sentiment die to cut out from the shadow die cut. Hopefully that makes sense. And then you can see there, I just popped in the O, the center of the O. So you see the black cardstock underneath and you have that raised white layer. I think it looks really cool. So I'm coming in here and I'm just gonna glue that down on top of the vellum and get it all centered where I like it on the card. Now off camera, I did go ahead and using my glue, I kind of stuck it back underneath the vellum, underneath where the sentiment is. And I only did that because I wanted to try and adhere my vellum down in a couple of different places on the front of the card, just so I could make it so that the words from the pattern paper could show through a little bit more. Completely optional, not anything you have to do, but I think it added just a little something extra to the card, being able to see more of that pattern paper underneath. Now I have come in and added a few little embellishments, and there it is. I love this card. What do you guys think? Let me know. So for my second card, I have actually used a piece of the pattern paper, and what I'm going to do is I'm using my scan and cut to cut out some of those cute little images. Now you could certainly fussy cut this with your scissors. That is just not my thing. If I can use my scan and cut to cut things out, I'm going to do it because it makes things a lot easier. I actually just recently got my scan and cut. It seemed like a really big purchase just to not have to fussy cut things, but at the end of the day, so far I've been really happy with it. And I'm going to link down below in the description to the YouTube video I watched to learn how to use it to cut out my items. I thought it was a really well done video. So I'm going to link that down in the description if you're interested. Now I have just used my little mini trimmer to cut out the "You Are So Sweet" so I can use that as the sentiment on my card. And then I'm using my scissors to create a little banner. I believe these are called fishtails. You just cut down the center and then you cut down each side and you get this nice little fishtail. Really easy to do. You don't have to have a specialty die to make this kind of banner. And if your tails aren't perfect, if they're not exactly even, no big deal. It looks really nice no matter what. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to glue down some of the pieces, but then I'm going to use foam tape or foam squares on some of the other pieces. And I'm going to use two different thicknesses of foam squares. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to create different layers of dimension on my card. And I will link down below, along with everything else I'm using today in this video, I'll link down to the two different types of foam squares that I used. I think it's a good idea to have different thicknesses on hand because it makes creating this kind of look so much easier. So now I'm going to come in, I'm going to glue down my banner, and then where I'm going to put the dimension in is with those cute little cupcakes and cookies. I can never say it right. I think macarons? I don't know. I'm sure somebody will tell me, no, that was wrong. But my husband loves those. We have this really delicious little bakery that's not that far from us that they come in like, I don't know, 40 different flavors. It's ridiculous. And so every once in a while we will pop over there and get a dozen of them in all of these delicious flavors. So lots of fun. But coming in here with these foam squares, these are a little tricky to get the release paper off of, I've noticed. And my box, when I ordered this box, came a little bit smashed. So you can see I'm not using they're supposed to sort of self pop up, but it doesn't work real well because the box was smashed in transit. But no big deal. I just pull out the tape and peel them off. And they work just as well. So not worried about it. But in case anyone was wondering, what is she doing? That's why. So now I've got my cupcake down. I did that with the thicker layer of the foam squares. And now I'm going to put this other cupcake down. You see, I'm going to tuck it underneath there. And I'm going to do it with the thinner foam squares so that it's still raised, but that I can tuck it behind that other cupcake. Whenever you're doing die cuts like this and you are trying to add extra visual interest to your card, doing variations on how tall things are on your card is really going to create a lot of interest for your eye. That is a huge tip. This works really well also with floral die cuts. If you have a bunch of different floral die cuts, try putting them overlapping in different ways and with different sizes of foam squares. You're going to get a really interesting kind of wow look having those different layers going up and around. So now I've got my cupcake down. Now I'm going to bring in my little cookie there and I'm going to glue it. Or I was going to glue it. Actually, I'm going to do 2 different foam squares on this guy because I'm going to use the thicker one on the left side and the thinner one on the right side. So that way it is popped up over that cupcake with the pink frosting. So you got to kind of think 3D when you're doing this and decide a little bit in advance sort of how you want everything to be popped up on your card. And it can be really helpful to sketch it out on a piece of paper if you're not sure. I've done this a lot, so I just sort of kind of know where to put things. But trust me, at first I would sit there and think about it for a long time before I put anything down on my paper. Now I'm going to trim my panel because I want to have about a 1/16 of an inch white frame all the way around. And the piece of cardstock I'm using here is that fog cardstock that came in the card kit. And I'm just putting it down on an A2 sized 4 1/4 by 5.5 card base that is on the horizontal there. So you can see I'm trimming a little bit more off because I want to make sure that that thin white border all the way around on my card is nice and even. I like having this mini trimmer on my desk because it makes it so that I can just trim away to my heart's delight as I am going through and putting stuff on my card. So once I get that done, I'll go ahead and adhere it to the card base, and then I am going to put some confetti onto my card in various places. Now the confetti mix I'm going to be using did not come with the card kit, but it is also from Simon Says Stamp. I believe it's called Cupcake Frosting, maybe something like that. And I thought that the pink went really well with the card, and I thought it was very fitting that it was called Cupcake. So coming in, and I am going to put 3 on the bottom of each side, and then I am going to put 2 up by the word sweet, you can see up there, and then I do ultimately come in with 3 more on the top left side over by the word you. So I do end up using a odd number of sequins. I think that works really well when you are working with cards. I do sometimes break that rule, but odd numbers and doing them in groups of 3 or 2, I find works pretty well. I've heard other people say that they try to put their sequins down in a W shape, and some people just sprinkle them on top of their card and kind of see where they land, and then they glue them down. I think it looks great when other people do it. It just doesn't work real well for me because there's not enough control over the card. And as per usual, I took out and edited out the part where I spent a bunch of time at the beginning trying to figure out where I wanted to put these cute little pieces of confetti. So now I have all of my confetti down on my card, and I think it's amazing that this all came from essentially one piece of pattern paper that I just cut out the images and some sequins. And I'm gonna have to look up the difference between sequins and confetti because I thought I knew. I thought sequins had a hole in them, but confetti didn't. But now I'm not so sure because I think this was called a confetti mix and there are holes in them. So if anyone knows the difference, let me know down in the comments, but I'm going to look it up. I'll let you guys know what I find out for the next video that I do. Well, there are the 2 finished cards, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, hit the like and subscribe button as well as that notification bell, and I will be back soon with another video. Until next time, happy crafting.